for this animal. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Paula O. from Glenview. Paula O.
Yes, I'm here. Please proceed. Hold on. I'm having trouble with my camera. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine with audio, so please proceed.
Oh, okay. Okay, good morning. My name is Paula O. As a Glenview resident for the past 17 years, the River Trail Nature Center with its surrounding trails has always been my escape, where I go to get away from it all and surround myself with nature. I have always been grateful that River Trail is just a hop and a skip away from my doorstep. These past few years during my visits, I have seen this coyote, but always assumed that its present living arrangement was the best he could have, and perhaps until now it was. I understand there is currently a review of the county's nature centers, including all their ambassador animals. I appreciate and applaud the forest preserves for acknowledging that there is always more to learn and do when it comes to the care of animals. The animals will surely benefit from that if being under your care is their best and only option, which for many may very well be. For this coyote, however, the opportunity for a better life and living arrangement has presented itself, and at no cost to the county and taxpayers. I would like to thank and express my appreciation to Commissioners Britton and Suffredin for meeting with Pat Craig, the Executive Director of the Wild Animal Sanctuary. Thank you for doing that. Just this past Friday, Jackie Ulrich sent Mr. Craig a letter with follow-up questions, 26 in all. Mr. Craig expeditiously, graciously, and thoroughly responded to all 26 questions the very next day, this past Saturday. If you have not yet had an opportunity to read this latest correspondence, I urge you to do so. It is very informative, educational, and in it, he explains that they have successfully integrated imprinted coyotes, which is exactly what the coyote at River Trail is. His answers to all of Ms. Ulrich's questions should effectively erase any doubt that this move to Colorado would be in the coyote's best interest. I found one particular question Ms. Ulrich asked interesting. She asked, and I'm paraphrasing, what proof Mr. Craig had that the coyote at River Trail was under stress. I found that interesting given that the Nature Center is already medicating him with 2 anti-anxiety sedating drugs, gabapentin and trazodone, commonly prescribed by veterinarians for dogs that experience extreme stress from things such as fireworks. Clearly, this coyote is stressed. I understand another option under consideration is enlarging his current enclosure, but that is no different from telling a human prisoner that he will be moved from an 8x10 cell to a 10x12 cell. Nothing fundamentally changes. In closing, Ms. Ulrich, in her latest letter to Mr. Craig, said that the mission of the Forest Preserves of Cook County is, and I quote, to preserve and protect the natural world. Your actions with regards to this coyote, given this wonderful opportunity, will show whether that is true or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Catherine Grant. Catherine Grant.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Good morning. And you can hear me?
We can, yes. Please proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Catherine Grant, and my husband and I own a small law firm in Golden, Colorado. I'm a supporter of the Wild Animal Sanctuary located in Keensburg, and I'm speaking today to support releasing Rocky the coyote. First, I want to say thank you for rescuing Coyote and taking good care of him. The request to move him is not an indictment. It's an endorsement for an even better life for him. I hope you've all read or will read the interaction between Jackie Ulrich and Pat Craig, the director. He founded it 42 years ago and has accommodated 1,000 animals since then, including tigers from the Tiger King. A few key points from their conversation, and I would like to say they were the right questions. And Mr. Craig had the right answers. To me, the most important point is that the sanctuary has received coyotes who became imprinted on humans, and in all cases, the coyotes quickly adapted to not requesting human interaction or touch, even though it was continually offered or encouraged to help buffer their transition. This is not traditional rehab. No one is suggesting that Rocky ever be freed into the wild. What they're doing is their own process of enabling the natural behaviors and instincts that come out of captive wildlife. Their behavior, energy, and social awareness increase dramatically, as well as their physical health, when they're not only exposed to others of their own kind, but also when it's done in a more natural and free roaming setting. They're not just going to let them loose, though. They're going to carefully introduce him in closed cages within different environments, find out what the best one is for him, and then introduce him into a small pack or an individual acreage. If you've ever seen the sanctuary in videos or in person, it's so impressive. There's a huge walkway, and you watch these animals actually live, not just be alive. I'll finish up just saying that we would not permanently cage a domestic animal, nor should we do this to a wild animal, no matter how quasi-domesticated they might be perceived as. This could be made into a win-win for everyone. He'll be transferred free of cost, and it could be used as a wonderful photo opportunity for media and education, even follow-up videos and information about his transition. I would also encourage you to contact, if you're worried about this, our Governor Jared Polis and his husband, First Gentleman Marlon Reese, who is an avid animal rights proponent. I'm certain that they would endorse the Wild Animal Sanctuary as a wonderful place for Rocky. He shouldn't live out his life in a cage. We can do better, and I appreciate you letting me speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Nicholas Becca. Wilmette, Nicholas Becca. Nicholas, are you connected? I'll move on. Randy Weiler, Mount Prospect. Randy Weiler, Mount Prospect.
Hello, good morning. Can you confirm you can hear me?
We can. Please proceed. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you all. I want to start out by just telling you guys where I'm from. Okay, I'm from a very small town in rural central Wisconsin. And I see the green, or I saw the green when I was a kid, and I see the green every time I go back up to visit my family. And I want to make sure that everybody, first off, that's in this meeting, takes advantage of the opportunity to visit their local forest preserve facilities, because you don't really know what you have until it's gone. And so being able to leave my home and within 1.5 miles, 2 miles, be in the middle of a mature forest, full of animals and birds in the wild and walking the trails, it's a treasure that everyone in Cook County should appreciate and experience, by themselves. And I've been to these facilities for many, many years, 7 years, taking my children there, my spouse, interacting with employees, interacting with, those who work there and care for animals. And I can attest that they're knowledgeable individuals who care deeply for these animals, and work very hard to, maintain their comfort, their nutrition, their watering, if you will. And this is, a daily, multiple time per day activity these individuals do. One of the reasons these animals are here, certainly the coyote was imprinted and held by humans or raised by humans for a while, and then moved out or turned over to someone because they realized this was a wild animal. Unfortunately, these individuals had already done their damage. There's other animals at the nature preserves. There's injured owls, injured hawks, and so on and so forth. It's important, that we can see these animals be cared for, and rehabilitated if possible, but certainly they're never going to be able to be released to the wild because they become dependent on humans for food. They become, dependent on humans for care. It's ironic to me that some of the individuals that are kind of attacking the forest preserves, if you will, are acting and using behavior which actually caused the whole root of the problem. This animal is not Rocky. This animal is not a pet. This is a wild coyote that somebody decided to turn into a pet. And so having a name for this coyote actually is a demonstration of the behaviors that cause issues like this from happening, or for happening and to begin with. It's important for me when I take my children there to show them, animals such as this coyote, and point out how, humans do need to keep their distance from wild animals and do need to let them do and roam and, live their own lives. We shouldn't be feeding them, in our backyard by hand or feeder or what have you, and encouraging them to come close to homes, because that obviously does create problems. Importantly, my kids have experienced many wonderful things at the forest preserves, night hikes, festivals. We've been going there for years. The staff is knowledgeable, they care. And I think it's important for everyone to realize that, this shouldn't be an argument, them versus us. We're all looking for the same thing,
And time is
but
expired.
we're just jading it our own way. However we want to spin our argument. The animal is being cared for. The forest preserve individuals working there are doing their job, and they're doing it well. And that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Veronica Becca from Wilmette. Veronica Becca.
I'm here.
Veronica, please proceed.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Can you hear me?
Hear me?
Yes. Please proceed.
Hi. First of all, I would like to thank the Board of Commissioners for the opportunity to speak to you today and for the myriad of wonderful programs the Cook County Forest Preserves offer. I am a Wilmette homeowner, voter, and school teacher. I am in favor of rehabilitating Rocky to the sanctuary. As an educator, I am troubled by the outdated idea that showing animals, wild animals, in an unnatural captive setting, and most of all in distress, has any educational value.
Veronica, if you can hear me, your frame has frozen.
Can you hear me?
We can. Please proceed. Continue.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. As an educator, I am troubled by the outdated idea that showing wild animals in an unnatural captive setting, and most of all in distress, has any educational value. To the contrary, I have brought children, compassionate children, to see your captive animals, and it is deeply saddening to them, at least if they have any empathy. I came home feeling I had submitted these children to the darkest parts of humanity, the humans that are comfortable abusing other beings in the name of education. After that experience, we decided to help Rocky. Recent Freedom of Information Act requests to the River Trail Nature Center revealed that Rocky's veterinarian have been prescribing him anti-anxiety medications which suppress his immune system, back to the point of Melissa Smith. When you suppress the immune system of a wild animal, he's at risk of getting all kinds of diseases from other wild animals and then transmitting it to children who come close to the cage. So this is another safety issue. So the veterinarians have been prescribing anti-anxiety medication which suppress the coyote's immune system and make Rocky drowsy for our viewing pleasure to prevent the public from seeing this majestic animal displaying stress-induced behavior and pacing nervously. So why is the River Trails Nature Center not allowing Rocky to be rehomed to a more humane setting? Last February, we interviewed Commissioner Scott Britton to better understand the point of view of the Cook County Forest Preserves. He said that if the purpose of keeping Rocky in the cage is to attract traffic, he said, this is not acceptable to me. However, it seems that though the River Trail Nature Center is doing just that, using this coyote to continue attracting visitors, they also fear that this rehoming will set a precedent.
Veronica, I'm sorry, your frame has frozen again, and there is about 20 seconds left in your testimony.
There is no more need nor value in keeping our majestic wildlife in cages. While I understand that some animals in the Ambassador Animal Program might not be able to be retired to sanctuary settings, I believe for the well-being of our wildlife and all visitors that this program needs to be phased out. What does using inhumane practices as an educational tool say about who we are in a society?
Veronica, your time has expired.
As technology progresses, our society evolves, and so do our ethics. Over 37,000 people have now signed the petition.
Jessica Greenwood from Chicago. Jessica Greenwood. And for those of you following the video, Veronica's audio does not seem to be hearing us. Her time has expired, and we do have other speakers to continue with. Jessica Greenwood from Chicago. Jessica, are you connected? Jessica Greenwood. If not, we'll move on. Brent Harrison from Winnetka. Brett Harrison.
Yes, hi, can you see and hear me?
We can. Please proceed, sir.
Thank you. My name is Brett Harrison. I'm the president of the cryptocurrency exchange FTX and a resident of Winnetka. FTX is one of the largest crypto exchanges in the world, recently valued at $40 billion, and our U.S. headquarters is located here in Cook County. My company has a noted history of making large investments in urban U.S. counties. Most famously, we invested $135 million into Miami-Dade County to combat gun violence, and in conjunction with our naming of the FTX Arena. I'm currently actively working with Mayor Lightfoot's office on pursuing similar investments in Cook County, but the recent outcome of the Forest Preserve District Board meeting with respect to this animal welfare issue has given me pause. I've cared deeply about animal welfare my entire adult life. I share this value with the senior leadership of FTX and with my wife, Hannah. At FTX, we have a philanthropic foundation through which we donate 10% of our company's profits to charitable organizations, and animal welfare is one of the main prongs of the foundation's giving. Likewise, my personal philanthropic efforts with Hannah have focused on animal welfare for the last 10 years, and we support numerous organizations dedicated to improving the lives of captive animals. I've spoken with many of my close friends and experts at these organizations, with the experts who have observed Rocky directly, with the experts at Wild Animal Sanctuary in Colorado, and have observed Rocky myself. There is unanimity of opinion that he's exhibiting stereotypic behaviors, highly repetitive, functionless activities such as pacing and over-grooming, indicating significant psychological distress. It's not surprising or hard to understand why Rocky is doing this when you consider the numerous natural and instinctive behaviors he's prevented from engaging in when he's confined to a small cage alone. There's nothing natural about Rocky's confinement at River Trail Nature Center, but you don't need to be a scientific expert to understand the common sense proposition that confining and isolating a healthy animal, wild, domesticated, or otherwise, in a small cage is cruel and harmful to them. River Trail Nature Center's response to the rightful and significant public opposition to their confinement of Rocky is similarly shocking and disappointing to me. Wild Animal Sanctuary is able today to provide Rocky with an environment dramatically more conducive to his physical and emotional health. If River Trail Nature Center truly cares about Rocky's health and happiness, its leadership should stop defensively and proprietarily rejecting the multiple offers from both the sanctuary and members of the Northbrook and suburban Cook County communities to provide resources to help Rocky immediately. A scenario in which River Trail Nature Center merely evaluates its current animal housing standards without a clear timeline or any concrete obligation to change anything is not an acceptable outcome. It does not address with any urgency Rocky's clearly exhibited daily psychological distress, and it does not address the legitimate concerns of thousands of Cook County community members and business leaders like myself have for his welfare. The best outcome for Rocky is for River Trail Nature Center to work with Wild Animal Sanctuary with the involved Cook County residents on a transition to Wild Animal Sanctuary, which can be accomplished without any cost to the River Trail Nature Center or to Cook County taxpayers. Such resolution would signal philanthropic companies like FTX that Cook County is a worthwhile focus of our investments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Celeste Burke. Celeste is connected by phone. Celeste, can you hear me?
Yes.
Please proceed.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please proceed.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate your time. I am a wildlife rehabilitator with over 25 years of experience. I have worked with both imprinted and wild coyotes. I would like to address the issue of imprinted wildlife. An imprinted animal is one that is too familiar with humans. They missed out on crucial learning opportunities for natural instinctual behavior. They learn at a very young age where they belong. When rehabbers receive animals that well-meaning but untrained people have imprinted, a choice must be made to place that animal as an animal ambassador or to euthanize it. Imprinted wildlife are not successful on their own because they don't know the social skills of their own species and are not afraid of humans. I had an opportunity to observe the coyote at River Trail while his caregiver was in the enclosure. The behavior I saw was geared to monitoring health on a daily basis and behavior that would be helpful during vet visits. He appeared to enjoy the interaction and enrichment. I believe that the value of this animal ambassador gives the public in an urban area the opportunity to appreciate coyotes as part of our ecosystem. They are considered a nuisance in many areas where they are poisoned, trapped, or shot as a danger to domestic animals. In our area, they are very elusive and become the subject of bad press when there is a human-coyote conflict, as in when they grab a domestic pet. He is well cared for, and I saw no indication of stress. Behavior that I observed was perfectly natural, normal for an imprinted coyote. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next registered public speaker is Irene Sawal from Glenview. Irene Sawal.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Irene Sewell, and I live near Northbrook's River Trail Nature Center. I have visited numerous times over the years and have also had the pleasure of recently touring the Wild Animal Sanctuary in Colorado. I'm speaking today on behalf of Rocky, the confined coyote who has spent his entire life in a small cage at the Nature Center. Going to the Wild Animal Sanctuary is like turning on a light switch. It's all so clear. Animals, including Rocky, require and deserve to live in an environment as close to their natural surroundings as possible, including open land to roam, underground dens for retreat, to be able to escape the sight and sounds of human beings. Importantly, it is our obligation to provide animals under our care with companionship of their choosing, which most certainly would be from their own species. As caregivers, we are morally and ethically required to provide sentient beings with the best life possible, both emotionally and physically. Rocky deserves so much better, and he would receive it at the Wild Animal Sanctuary. In the 40-plus years, the Wild Animal Sanctuary has been providing refuge to animals held in captivity around the globe, including those raised in private homes as quote-unquote pets with only human contact. Not a single animal has ever chosen to not be with his own species. Every single time, regardless of his past, regardless of his individual story, the lion, bear, fox, tiger, and yes, coyote has chosen to be with others of his kind at the Wild Animal Sanctuary. Every single time, over 40 years of experience, and it is always the same, 100% of the time. Rocky deserves to not only roam, but to roam with other coyotes. As much as we would like to think so, human caregivers can never take the place of another coyote for optimal companionship. The fact that Rocky is being treated with anti-anxiety meds, yet he continues to exhibit clear signs of severe stress, should be enough to tell you this animal's basic needs are not being met. Watching him pace back and forth in his small cage is gut-wrenching. If you care about him, do the right thing. Surrender him to the Wild Animal Sanctuary. Find compassion for this being we all purportedly love. Surrender him. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Ishmael Perez from Chicago. Ishmael Perez from Chicago.
Yeah, I'm here.
Good morning. Please
Can you
proceed.
hear me?
Yes, please proceed, sir.
Okay.
I visited Rocky the Coyote at River Trail Nature Center on February 13th, 2022, during a protest with over 20 activists against his living conditions. It was freezing outside, and the weather made the water in Rocky's water bucket frozen. I took a video of him having to break the ice in the bucket to drink out of it. I recorded Rocky frantically pacing in a circle and around his cage's bars. It's clear that Rocky's living situation is causing unnecessary harm to his mental health. A FOIA has revealed that Rocky has been prescribed anti-anxiety medication, which can be associated with his harsh living conditions. While Rocky is in a cage, limiting his movement, coyotes can be seen outside the cage, freely roaming in the forest. The county board and the Forest Preserve Board have an excellent chance to transfer Rocky to the Wild Animal Sanctuary, free of charge. At the sanctuary, Rocky will have a much larger space to roam, hide from passers-by, and exhibit typical coyote behavior found in the wild. He will also be cared for by humans. By keeping Rocky in the harsh living conditions in the River Trail Nature Center, the River Trail Nature Center is not accurately educating the public about the vast majority of coyotes in the wild. Rocky does not exhibit their behavior because of his limiting living conditions. I understand that the staff from the River Trail Nature Center care about Rocky. That gives more reason why the River Trail Nature Center should improve Rocky's living conditions by transferring him to the Wild Animal Sanctuary. In the last Cook County Commissioners Board meeting, Commissioner Britton of the 14th District said he is committed to improving Rocky's transfer and improving the situation. Sorry, I said that wrong. I'll say it again. In the last Cook County Commissioners Board meeting, Commissioner Britton of the 14th District said he is committed to improving the situation. Transferring Rocky to the Wild Animal Sanctuary is my solution, expert solution, and many other solution to Rocky's harsh living conditions at the River Trail Nature Center. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Jody Whitaker, Chicago Alliance for Animals. Jody Whitaker. Jody, are you connected?
I'm here.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Good morning, Cook County Commissioners. My name is Jody Whitaker, and I'm speaking today on behalf of the Chicago Alliance for Animals' more than 3,000 members who want Rocky the Coyote to be released to the Wild Animal Sanctuary. Animal advocates do not view Rocky as a human, as alluded by a previous misinformed speaker. However, he was found and raised as a dog. I've seen handlers in his cage playing with him, petting him, and giving him treats like a dog. Yet he's stuck in a cage 24/7 in Chicagoland's freezing winters with barren dog houses and no enrichment. Nobody would approve of a dog treated this way. Even zoos name the animals, yet River Trail only calls Rocky the Coyote. That doesn't mean we are attacking the forest preserves nor claiming they don't care. However, River Trail continues to regurgitate the lie that concerned animal advocates want the forest preserves to simply release Rocky to fend for himself. But I believe you all know now, as does everybody who is following this humane campaign, that we want Rocky released to the Wild Animal Sanctuary, where professionals can slowly and carefully rehabilitate him, and he can be released into large acreage, natural habitats where he can live fully, has room to roam, and can play with others of his kind for the rest of his life. River Trail also continues to claim that he is unreleasable. I've worked in animal protection for decades. Animals are very resilient, and they can be introduced by those who know how to do so. Once again, he won't just be set free or to fend for himself or simply die, as was also suggested by another speaker. If wildlife is going to be imprisoned, the least the forest preserves could do is be 100% sure they have fresh water 100% of the time. But we know that's not the case, as many people have documented that many of their ambassador animals have water bowls frozen solid often. This means river trails should invest in heated water bowls. That's what you should do when animals depend on you during Chicagoland's harsh winters. However, a heated water bowl will not make Rocky's solitary confinement just. What River Trail Nature Center is teaching children and other visitors is that they have no respect for wildlife, to literally lock them up in tiny cages. This facility is not a natural nor appropriate environment for ambassador animals. So all the public sees are animals languishing and suffering mostly alone in very unnatural and inhumane incarceration. Lastly, the Cook County Forest Preserve's motto is feel free, but caging wild animals goes completely against this motto. Please allow Rocky to finally feel and be free. And just because there are other pressing issues going on in our world does not mean we shouldn't speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. Thank you very much for your time and consideration today.
Thank you. Nicole from Free Rocky Facebook page. Nicole, Free Rocky Facebook page. Nicole, are you connected? If not, I will recall those that did
That's
not.
you. Hi,
Nicole?
Hi. Actually, Carol Milan was signed up to speak. I don't know why I would be signed up to speak twice, but Carol Milan is here to speak.
Carol Milan has already spoken.
No, Nicole Milan did. Nicole Milan did. Sorry about the confusion, but Nicole and Carol signed up.
Okay, so you are Nicole?
Yes, I'm Nicole.
Please proceed.
And I'm Carol.
Is there a Nicole from Free Rocky Facebook page?
Yeah. That's me, Nicole Milan. I don't know why that was. I've already spoken. I don't know why another Nicole was signed up to speak.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Go.
Hi, I'm Carol Milan. I'm a Northbrook resident. I'm a retired business owner and teacher, and I'm talking about Rocky. During below zero weather, when no one was there to care about Rocky the coyote, I visited him. I found him in the tightest ball you can imagine, trying to stay warm. The tunnels at the Wild Animal Sanctuary don't get below 50 degrees, ever. I've heard him cry out of anxiety and cry before he was fed. His food takes him 60 seconds to consume, and he's left bored, seeking attention. Other times, he has his eyes focused on the center door, hoping for someone to come and give him some time. I heard the River Trail speech by Brian Winters on how the coyote is a member of their family. They're paid employees. This is a disturbing way to treat a family member. He was really cold. We need to clean up our forest preserves. Why not have Cook County be a leader in doing the right thing? There's an isolated fox at the Trailside Museum of Natural History, and his life would be vastly improved in a natural setting. In 2018, half the elk at Bussey Woods died from dehydration from forest preserve employee negligence. In 2020, at Bussey Woods, employees ignorantly blended a new herd, and a young elk was killed by a senior male elk bull. There is a healthy bobcat at Willowbrook Wildlife Center. According to a FOIA document written from Cook County employee, Jeanette Lewis, Assistant Director, Sand Ridge Nature Center and Campus, I quote, "I do hope the replacement coyote is truly an animal that needs to be kept in captivity and can thrive in such a setting. The previous female coyote, Kaya, should have been reconditioned and released once it was determined her eyesight was just fine. But as they say, hindsight is 20/20. Knowing how much she was kept isolated from everyone for the better part of her life, combined with knowing she was a perfectly healthy coyote, makes me even more of a proponent to release an animal wherever possible." End quote from Jeanette. Whether it's USDA approved or not, what's going on is wrong. It's time for change. This is disturbing and disheartening. We can and should do better. How many meetings will it take for you to do the right thing? Please send Rocky to the Wildlife Sanctuary at no cost to taxpayers. Bring on the wind of change and let's clean up all of Illinois' forest preserves. They need it. Thank you.
Thank you. The following 3 registered speakers did not respond. If you are connected, please tell us now. Nicholas Becca from Wilmette, Jessica Greenwood from Chicago, Brad Kolar. Are either of you 3 connected now? Nicholas Becca, Jessica Greenwood, and Brad Kolar. If not, Madam President, we have concluded the registered public speaking period. To our public speakers, thank you for your testimony. We're going to ask that you disable your cameras now to preserve our bandwidth for the rest of the meeting. Thank you, Madam President.
Was recognized.
Thank you, Madam President.
Hold on just a moment,
Commissioner Laurie, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Thank you, Secretary. With the hour having reached 11 a.m., I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Forest Preserve District's Litigation Committee.
Thank you, sir. I'll call the roll, and this is Forest Preserve Litigation. Commissioner Britton?
Here.
Commissioner Degnan?
Degnan's present.
Commissioner Johnson?
Johnson here.
Commissioner Sean Morrison?
Sean Morrison present.
Commissioner Chair Silvestri has an excused absence. Commissioner Suffredin?
Present.
And Vice Chairman Laurie?
Laurie's present, and I'll now recess the committee until the call of the chair. But with the hour having reached 11:05 a.m., I would now like to call to order the Cook County Finance Subcommittee on Litigation.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Britton?
Here.
Commissioner Degnan?
Degnan's present.
Commissioner Johnson?
Johnson here.
Commissioner Sean Morrison?
Commissioner Sean Morrison present.
Commissioner Chair Silvestri has an excused absence. Commissioner Suffredin?
Present.
Chairman Laurie is present. Chairman, you do have a quorum for each of these meetings.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I'll now recess that committee meeting until the call of the chair. And again, thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Lowry. With apologies to the superintendent who wished to address the body regarding some of the public testimony.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
As I noted at the February board meeting, I have an update on the process and progress of our review of our Nature Center's Animal Ambassador Program. We created a cross-departmental committee responsible for this review and the final report. The committee has identified the key topics to be researched as well as a structure to gather that information across multiple channels. We will interview and survey approximately a dozen nature centers, small zoos, colleges, and animal rehabilitation centers that are leaders in operating an ambassador animal program. We have identified a set of local and national sites, and we will talk with national organizations and other experts to choose the other facilities to benchmark for best practices. We have identified organizations that are at the forefront of the field of care, accreditation, and standards for animal ambassador programs. We have begun gathering resources, and as needed, we'll conduct interviews with representatives from organizations such as the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, the American Sanctuary Association, the Lincoln Park Zoo, the American Humane Society, and the International Wildlife Rehabilitation Council. We've also received a letter from the Wild Animal Sanctuary, as was noted in some of the comments, introducing the organization to our staff and providing an overview of their approach and philosophy. We've responded with questions to gather more information, and will incorporate the information that they provided into the review. The Chicago Zoological Society has been providing guidance to the committee on choosing third-party experts on relevant academic research. We've begun collecting and assessing studies from the Journal of Zoo Biology, the USDA, National Wildlife Research Center, the Journal of Mammalogy, and similar publications. We will bring in a third-party expert to assess the care, feeding, enclosure, and other factors that impact the quality of life for the coyote and other ambassador animals at River Trail Nature Center. We have been in discussions with University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point, captive wildlife animal program, and the American Humane Society about undertaking this assessment. We commit to an evaluation from these organizations or a similar third-party expert. For all the sources I have mentioned, the committee has created a benchmark questions to provide the latest perspective on a series of key issues. We are gathering information on the best systems and procedures for monitoring health and well-being of animals in our care, best practices for enclosures, feeding, enrichment activities, and other infrastructure for the types of species in our animal ambassador program, the science of imprinting of wild animals and options for care for animals that have been diagnosed as imprinted, guidelines for the ethical treatment for animals in care, and the state of ambassador animal programs nationally. So we're part of a much larger network of agencies that engage with animal ambassadors. The final report will outline the findings from this research. It will provide operational and programmatic recommendations for the ambassador animal program across all nature centers, including the coyote at River Trail Nature Center. It will give options for an ongoing, informed process for continued evaluations, gathering of knowledge and resources, and practice and policy evolution. We will have this report for the Board of Commissioners at the July board meeting. Clearly, many people care deeply about the health and well-being of the coyote at River Trail Nature Center, and we've heard many perspectives, both this meeting and last meeting. This process will allow the Forest Preserve to determine a course of action that is carefully considered and informed by science, best practices, and facts. Our decisions cannot be based on hyperbole and misinformation, and I would argue that we heard a little bit of both today. I ask that the board and the advocates for every option allow the preserves the time and capacity to conduct this thorough review. As I said last month, we remain open-minded about this issue, and I ask those who demand change to remain open-minded too. I would ask just briefly, there were a few comments here, and one specifically related to frozen water that I'm going to ask Jackie Ulrich, who's our department head for the Department of Conservation and Experiential Programming that oversees the nature centers. Jackie, to speak to that issue, please.
Morning, Madam President, Commissioners, and Superintendent Randall. Thanks for letting us speak. Appreciate the time. We just want to be clear that we have procedures to get fresh water daily to all of our outdoor ambassador animals at River Trail and all of the animals at Cook County. Because it's a mammal, our staff starts the day by providing the coyote with drinking water. When the photos were taken of the water, that was of the birds' enclosures, and our raptors depend on actually their prey to provide them with the moisture that they need in terms of their health and well-being during the winter. So the birds actually don't need the water in the same way as the coyote, and so that's refreshed every day as well, but a little bit later. So it's actually not true or fair to indicate that, that we aren't taking care of our animals in terms of the water. So thank you for allowing us to address that.
All right. Thank you, Superintendent, and thank you, Jackie. All right. I believe that Commissioner Britton had his hand raised.
Yes, and just very briefly, Madam President, I just want to thank the Forest Preserves for keeping me in the loop on this particular issue. Many of the people who have testified today are neighbors of mine, and I want to make sure that everyone understands that they're being heard and listened to. This review is being done, I know, in a time frame that it does not please some, but I believe we have to get this done right, and we have to get it done as soon as we can with all of the various considerations that have to be noted and then preserved for our discussion further in July. I have read the response from the Wildlife Sanctuary. I do believe that there are additional conversations that are going to take place, and my commitment to those who have spoken to me remains the same, which is to do what's best for this coyote, and that's what we're going to do. And I know that the Forest Preserve is committed to a fair and neutral process, and that is what I will make sure happens as we go forward. I know Superintendent Randall has committed to that, and I know that he will do that and follow through. So thank you for the time you've spent, and we'll continue to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Britton. Commissioner Morrison?
Thank you, Madam President. And, I really want to thank all the people that took the time to come on and speak with us again today, as well as last month. The issue is a complicated one, and given the current plight of the world today as we sit here with what's going on, it's refreshing to realize that people have not lost their connection to humanity and empathy for both human beings and animals. That being said, as commissioners, we have the benefit, perhaps, of having extended conversations with our forest preserves folks, with the folks that are providing the actual medical care and the care of these animals. And I understand that it's a difficult topic, but the love and the care that are being provided to the coyote and to the other animals under our care is tremendous, and it should not go without note. There are a lot of issues, though, that are just whether or not we send this coyote to a larger sanctuary. There are issues as to whether or not this particular coyote could even survive and would be accepted by packs. And I'd like Superintendent Arnold to talk about some of the other issues that haven't been brought up, like what are the possible harmful side effects just based off of the relocation and the travel that could come into play, unexpected consequence.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, I think so. Just generally speaking, and we've talked about this, and we talked about this some at the last meeting. There's this concern about stress, and obviously we're all concerned about stress that the animals are under, and there's different reasons for it. Certainly, taking this animal from really the family that it's known, the pack that it's known at River Trail Nature Center, and then displacing it and taking it somewhere else would create a great deal of stress for the animal. Frankly, we're going to do this research and do this review, but to understand really what that means to relocate that animal and put it into a circumstance with other animals that it has no relationship to, has only known humans. And I think one speaker mentioned that, really it's not afraid of humans and is comfortable with humans and doesn't have the socialization skills. It didn't develop the socialization skills because it was taken on as a pet early on in its life, and so it would not survive. And we have there's a lot of research that says that. So I know there's some fundamental disagreements about that, and that's what we aim to get through this process and benchmarking with other like agencies and hearing from other professionals in a neutral way. And we're always open to improving what we do. So we are committed to that. And whatever comes out of this study will come out of this study, and we'll follow that. And we'll take that guidance and apply it to our program.
And Superintendent, can you spend another minute just to opine a little bit about the attention and the commitment to overall health care to not only the coyote but some of those other animals that cannot go back into the natural environment?
I'd be glad to. So, as you know, as if anybody's been to any of our nature centers, there's animals there. The coyote is imprinted. The other animals have injuries that would not allow them to survive in nature, and so we feel it's a great opportunity to introduce these animals to people. And if you've attended any of the feeding sessions or talked to the staff, you understand, you get a great education about these animals and why they're important and why we should protect them. And they're all located here in Cook County in the Forest Preserve. So they get a lot of attention. The staff are really committed. I think it's hard to hear some of the comments, false comments that the staff are not engaged or do not deliver great care to these animals, because that's false. They deliver wonderful care to these animals. They're very committed to them, and if you watch them engage with the animals, you would know that. It would be obvious. And so they are fed regularly. We have a whole freezer full of food for these animals inside the nature centers, and they're fed. In this case of the coyote, there's exercises and activities that the staff do with him to keep him engaged. His ideal situation is he would have never been imprinted upon, and he could roam wild like other coyotes. But that's not what's going on with this coyote. He's been imprinted upon. We cannot change that. We're just trying to provide him the best life that he can, and then he also provides a larger service to all of us that we get to connect and understand these animals well. Coyotes in Cook County are seen as a threat by some of the population. There's always concerns that the coyotes are attacking other animals, and this is a chance to see this coyote and understand more about it, and that you shouldn't feed the coyote yourself. Then we get to educate people, and people are very interested in nature and animals. So the level of care, the veterinary care, all those things are top notch, and we will again look at all of what we do again, because it's okay if it's always good to do some self-evaluations. We're taking this as an opportunity to do that, but we believe we are, and if things are pointed out to us that we can improve upon, we will definitely do that.
Thank you, Madam President. I would just want to leave for the general public to our speakers that are there to just, if I can leave one message. I very seldom speak for all the employees that are involved in these types of things, but I can attest that the empathy that exists at the Forest Preserve for all of our animals is real, and our leaders are doing the best they can to find the best solution in this case. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to both Commissioner Britton and Commissioner Sean Morrison. Now, let me renew my request to Finance Chair Arroyo.
Thank you, Madam President. I would make the following motions. To refer to Real Estate Committee, item 220133, to approve item 220169, 220168, 220176, to receive and file item number 220181, to refer to Finance Committee item 220175, to refer to Law Enforcement Committee item 220170, to receive and file 220174, 220171, 220178, 220179, and to concur with the recommendation of the Litigation Committee to approve 220172, 220185, and to receive and file item 220173.
Second.
I would ask Superintendent Randall to give a description of the items, please.
Thank you very much. Motion is made by the Finance Chair and seconded by the Vice Chair, Commissioner Arroyo and Commissioner Deere. Superintendent.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners. First item is 22-0133. This is a proposed intergovernmental agreement with the Streamwood Park District. This is for the repaving of an existing access road that extends north of Schaumburg Road to a former Watchman resident in the Art Junior Preserve to allow for joint access to Forest Preserve's land and an adjacent Park District land. As part of this agreement, the Park District will demolish a now vacant and unused resident Watchman home and will repave an existing trail that is currently a gravel trail. We feel this is a mutual benefit to both the Forest Preserve and to the Park District. In such case, we're also recommending the waiver of any license fees related to this, since it is a benefit to us as well. Next item is 22-0169. This is a proposed contract with the Public Group, LLC. This is for online auction services. This would allow us to use this service to dispose of and generate some limited revenue by disposing of old vehicles that are no longer in use for us, and vehicle related parts and that sort of thing, so are no longer in use for the Forest Preserve. The larger county currently uses this service, and we feel based on the positive use of it by the county that we would also like to take advantage of this online auction service through the Public Group and recommend your passage. Next item is 22-0168. This is a proposed disbursement for Swim Chicago Southland. So as you know, the last 2 years, our aquatic facilities, our 3 aquatic facilities, were not open to the public because of the pandemic. So we are excited that we are in the process of planning to reopen them for this summer. Our pool schedule will be beginning Memorial Day weekend through Labor Day weekend of this year. Because we've been closed for 2 years, we will need to be recertified through the Illinois Department of Public Health before we open. The management company is Swim Chicago Southland. They've been running it for us for a number of years. There are associated costs with running it, so we have an up to number of $799,369 for the fiscal year 2022. They will have to submit invoices and receipts for things that to get paid back by us, but this allows us to pay up to that number over the season. And any of those expenses have to come in front of the board as well. Next item is 22-0176 is proposed disbursement to Christopher B. Burke Engineering. This is for $157,531.57. This is for engineering services related to the improvement of roads and trails and parking lots, ADA improvements around the forest preserves. This is money that was directed to us through the motor fuel tax, through the Cook County Department of Transportation and Highways for these improvements. So thank them very much for that. And this is a payment out of that related to some of the engineering services for that work. Next item is 22-0181. This is the Forest Preserve Foundation annual report. So I'd like to just briefly turn it over to Deborah Walker Johnson, who is the president and executive director of the Forest Preserve Foundation, to give us an overview of the annual report.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Again, I'm Deborah Walker Johnson, president of the Forest Preserve Foundation. So thank you for the opportunity to share highlights of the Forest Preserve Foundation work in 2021. We recently completed our annual report, and I just wanted to share a few snippets from the report. We saw the impact of COVID-19 has highlighted the importance of the Foundation's work to steward resources to ensure the Cook County Forest Preserves remain accessible and inviting to visitors. The Forest Preserve saw unprecedented levels of participation in outdoor activities as visitors sought peace and solace in nature during the past couple of years. Not only did existing visitors reinvigorate their engagement, but new visitors discovered the Forest Preserves provide a place for creating their own adventure right in their backyard. The Forest Preserve Foundation stayed focused on its mission, securing funding to grant approximately $327,000 in funding in 2021 to support programs and activities at the Cook County Forest Preserves. One of those programs is the Conservation Corps. We granted approximately $132,000 to support the Conservation Corps program. Our grants to the Conservation Corps programs provided summer internship opportunities to 166 youth across Cook County through the Forest Preserve Experience and the Chicago Conservation Leadership Corps. This fun 5-week paid summer program engages high school students in rewarding conservation work and nature education experience in the forest preserves of Cook County. The youth works in teams to gain skills to prepare them for the workforce while also having fun in nature. The program also prepares a diverse cross-section of youth to become the next generation of environmental advocates. For our restoration work, we provided funding to support the restoration of 293 acres of the preserves where invasive species threaten sensitive ecosystems and where habitats have been damaged. This includes $136,923 for invasive species removal and regrowth treatment of 176 acres of woodland and 80 acres of wetland in Sweetwoods. This work is part of an ongoing restoration of Sweetwoods, the largest scale restoration project in the Foundation's history. We granted $35,700 for tree and foliage thinning for over 25 acres in Cranberry Slough. This is the fourth phase of a project to increase sunlight and promote native species growth on the forest floor. The Foundation has funded 350 acres of the restoration at the 550-acre preserve. With $9,000 to support the restoration of 5.4 acres of oak wood in Schubert Woods, more than double the project's original 2-acre scope. This site is a remnant of the pre-settlement woodland ecology and a forest preserve priority restoration area. And lastly, for preservation, $13,500 for 3.5 acres of invasive species removal along the Spring Creek Headwood. These improvements promote biodiversity and hydrological health at the Headwood and further downstream. I'm pleased to report that 2021 also marked the 10th anniversary of the Conservation Cup. Let me pause to thank President Pretwinkle for her participation in it. The Conservation Cup is the Foundation's annual golf outing and largest fundraiser that secures funds to support the work you just heard about. I'm proud to report that last year's event raised a record $223,000. For those of you who missed it, you missed a fun time. This year's Conservation Cup, we're working on this year's Conservation Cup now, which will be held on Thursday, September 8th. So I hope everybody is there. The our annual report also features a tribute to Al Pritchard, who was a staunch supporter of the preserves. I want to report that next week I will celebrate my first year as president of the foundation. And I've been able to meet with many of you, visit the various preserves, observe some of the restoration work being done, and meet with several of the youth who participate in a conservation course. The foundation welcomed 3 new board members last year, and we welcomed a new development director this year. So we're looking to being able to step up our efforts. I can report with our team solidified. I look forward to working with all of you, our partners and supporters, to make this another impactful year for the Forest Preserve Foundation, as we work to secure funds to support the work being done to make the forest preserves of Cook County accessible and welcoming to all residents. So I'm open for any questions if anybody has questions.
Thank
That
you.
concludes my report.
Thank you. I don't see any hands on any of these items. So I would ask the secretary. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Deborah. Next item is 22-0175. This is the annual energy expense report. This gets referred to the Finance Committee. This is a monthly breakdown of related energy payments made during fiscal year 2021 based on our current strategy of working on energy efficiency and becoming net zero. Next item is 22-0170. This is a report titled Model Policing. This gets referred to the Law Enforcement Committee. This, as you know, we have a plan to really make the necessary and appropriate changes to our law enforcement department with the goal of becoming a model Forest Preserves Police Department. At this committee, we will give an update. Our chief of police will give an update on the status of that work that we're doing. Next item is 22-0174. This is the Resident Watchman Annual Report. So this is a required report, and we're glad to give it on an annual basis on the status for our Resident Watchman program. I'm going to ask Mike Murnane, who manages our Watchman Housing Program, to give a brief presentation on the parameters of the program and its status in 2021.
Hi, thank you, Arnold. Good morning, Madam President. Good morning, Board of Commissioners. Nice to be in front of you today. I'll keep this brief since we've had a lot of testimony already. But for those new commissioners who aren't as familiar with the Resident Watchman program, a couple-minute update. So, Resident Watchman program is not unique to Cook County, though it may go by a different name. It exists at almost every level of government, from national, state, to county. And with the majority of the district's holdings being natural area, including forest, grassland, and wetlands, these residences provide a physical presence and help ensure that the areas are not damaged by vandals, off-road vehicles, fly dumpers, hunters, and other unauthorized users. Although the district cannot be effective in protecting all areas, these residences do provide protection to a large amount of district lands to ensure that misuse is kept to a minimum. To become a resident watchman, a person must be a full-time employee with the district who has passed their probationary period and must also pass a certified course in burn training, wildland firefighting, and chainsaw use. And they may not have had 5 days or more of suspension within the prior 12 months. Most of our resident watchmen have a high level of qualification and training for fire suppression and chainsaw operation.
Excuse me. Madam
Yes.
President, could you ask somebody to please turn off that alarm? Am I the only one hearing it?
I hear it too.
Yeah.
Please proceed. Thank you very much, Commissioner Sims.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Most of our watchmen have a high qualification and training for fire suppression and chainsaw operation. In Cook County, we use the Resident Watchman Program to respond to natural events occurring after normal working hours. These include performing duties such as on-site security for district facilities, responding to a report of a fire on district property, which can be either inspecting the fire to make sure there is no danger of the fire spreading, or extinguishing the fire on district property. When extinguishing a fire, it is multiple watchmen responding, and in some cases we've had 20 to 30 watchmen at a time. Oftentimes, the municipal fire department will also respond to a fire, and without a district representative, they may take the lead on the fire, which has in the past led to issues such as fire trucks getting stuck on a district field, or the municipality charging the district for sending out their fire department. Other duties include responding to the report of a tree or large branch down on public roadway or private property bordering district property, on district trails, a picnic grove, or parking lots. Despite the popularity of cell phones nowadays, a watchman still assists the general public with everything from being lost, having a flat tire, a car accident, or medical emergencies. Snow plowing and snow removal at a district facility where the watchman lives helps ensure staff can safely enter the facility after a large snow event. Watchmen must also monitor district property in an assigned area and report twice a month to all activities they have performed, and this data is collected in the Watchman Annual Report, which you have in front of you now. So the value of the Watchman program comes from the resident watchman responding to these events after normal working hours without being paid overtime, which in turn saves the district from calling out contractors at night to respond to fires or releasing a municipal fire department, which allows them to better respond to potential general public or community emergencies. By resident watchmen removing trees and branches immediately after the public, again, saves the district money from calling a contractor to respond. Fire response and tree limb removal all come at a cost if contracted, and that money would have to come from somewhere else in the district, whether it is programming, maintenance, staffing, or equipment. Snow removal saves staff time and creates a safer working environment. And at times, with large snow events, some of our properties are difficult to enter from the public roadway, and with the resident watchman plowing the driveway and parking spots, employees can safely enter the facility and get out to clearing areas for the public instead of spending staff time clearing their work yard. Many of the resident watchmen mow the grass at the facility they live at, again, saving staff time and freeing up staff to better serve the public. In return, the watchman lives in a district-owned house or apartment at a reduced market value rent. All rents are automatically payroll deducted, and the money to repair and maintain the houses comes from the rents paid by the resident watchman. You can liken it to a condo association where all the fees go into an account and are managed by the Housing Committee and primarily the Housing Committee chair. There aren't a lot of records or data on the beginning of the resident watchman program, but the first mention of it was at a board meeting of June 31st, 1918. And recently, in 2012, with the assistance of the Office of the Inspector General and the Shackman Compliance Office, the district has enacted many changes to the selection process for resident watchmen, making sure that all employees know and meet at least the minimum qualifications, and that the changes include no political considerations when assigning a watchman to a property. And that will conclude my report for today. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Okay, thank you, Mike. I appreciate the update. Next item is 22-0171. This is our workers' compensation report for January 2022. And I want to turn it over to our Chief Attorney, Lisa Lee.
Thank you, Arnold. Item 22-0171 is the workers' compensation payment report for January 2022. It is approximately $129,000, $656. That is less than the comparable time period for January 2021, and it is also less than the prior month of December 2021. For the month of January, there are about 17 total individuals on temporary or permanent disability. And Arnold, that concludes my report.
So the next two items are 22-0178 and 22-0179. I will ask there the corporate fund analysis of revenue and expenditures and the procurement and disbursements report. And I'll ask our CFO, Steve Hughes, to speak to both of those items.
Okay, thank you, Arnold. Good morning, Madam President, and good morning, Commissioners. Item 22-0178 is the corporate fund revenue and expense report for January of 2022. January revenue is reported at $2,183,426. Our revenue is approximately $145,000 below last year through January. I would like to point out that our PPRT collections are at almost $1 million, so we're already at about 35% of what we budgeted for 2022. And by comparison, comparing it to our fiscal year 2020 collections, we collected $3 million for the entire year in 2020. So that's looking good. Since we're in mid-March, I'd also like to provide a quick update regarding property tax collections. So for the first installment, we're already ahead of last year's collections through early March. Moving on to January expenditures, our expenditures are at $1,958,560. Overall expenditures are pretty similar to last year. We're about $12,000 above last year through January. In summary, our year-to-date revenue exceeds expenditures by about $225,000. So that concludes that item. Then I'll move on to the next one, which is item 22-0179, which is the procurement and disbursements report for January. We're reporting 24 purchase orders totaling $733,645 and 45 disbursements totaling $1,268,513. And just to highlight some of the disbursements, in January, we have 4 payments that were funded through the motor fuel tax funding that we received from the county, a payment to Enlight Contracting for work that they're doing at Crabtree Nature Center, a payment to Matthew Paving, and 2 payments to Christopher Burke Engineering. Also, I'd like to highlight some of the other programs that are being done by the Friends of the Forest Preserve in their Conservation Corps programs. We made 3 payments to the Friends of the Forest Preserve for the Chicago Conservation Corps program, the North Branch Conservation Corps program, and for their Career Immersion program. And finally, 2 payments were made to Green Corps Chicago for their programming that they do on our behalf. Those were related to October and November reimbursements. Arnold, that concludes my update for those 2 items.
Thank you, Steve. The next item is 22-0172. This is the recommendation of the Finance Subcommittee on Litigation. Again, I'd like to turn it over to our Chief Attorney, Lisa Lee.
Thank you, Arnold. 22-0172 is the recommendation of the Finance Subcommittee on Litigation. Last month in February, on February 8th, the Litigation Committee approved 2 settlements totaling $207,000. The Litigation Committee also approved legal fees for about $42,854. And those settlements and legal fees are what's before you today. Thank you. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Next item is 22-0185. This is the journal proceedings for the regular board meeting held on February 8th, 2022. Next item is 22-0173, our proposed calendar of events. Giving an update just on how we're operating as an organization as it relates to the pandemic. We're currently we have been following the current public health guidelines, so we are no longer requiring face masks indoors or outdoors for visitors. However, we are encouraging people to use a mask if they can't physically distance indoors. We continue to have masks available if people want them, and don't bring their own. The season is changing, which we're all excited about, and our spring events are starting. There are virtual and in-person maple syrup events at River Trail Nature Center this week, culminating in Maple Syrup Fest on March 20th. We're holding a number of spring walks to see wildflowers and other signs of spring at a number of our nature centers. We also have breakout adventure activities at nature centers for when kids are out of school for the upcoming spring breaks. We're also looking at another round of leaders for community groups who would like to be trained by our Day Hike Gear Library program. The training prepares someone to lead groups on hikes in the forest preserves. It's a great way they can bring out new visitors to enjoy the preserves. They can bring out their groups, and the folks can check out hiking gear for their events like we do with our camping and kayaking programs. So we train group leaders to lead hikes on their own, and they can bring their groups out, and if they need gear, we can lend them gear as well. And that's been a very successful model, both with camping and with our kayak programs. I'm really excited about that. Next item is items to be discharged from committee. So the Finance Committee, the next item is 22-0126, and this is a proposed ordinance amendment to our business license and permit provisions. I'm going to ask Tracy Bishop, who is our Director of Licenses, Permits, Concessions, to give that report.
Thank you, Arno, and good morning, everyone. And I do have a few slides, but I do promise that the presentation will be quick, but I'm going to share my screen if that's okay with everybody. Is everybody able to see my screen? Perfect. All right, again, my name is Tracy Bishop, and I'm the Director of the Permits, Rentals, and Concessions Department. And I wanted to just give you an overview. I know there is an actual memo that was attached to the actual ordinance request, the changes, but just to give you a brief overview and kind of consolidate some of that information and hopefully answer any questions that you may have had in committee. So briefly, the goal of the program, concessions program, will be to provide the highest quality and variety of foods, goods, and services at a reasonable and enhanced prices and enhance the public's use and enjoyment of the district properties. The program will also increase the concessions opportunities across the district